Hello, everybody. Andrew McGovern here from Irwin, joined with, as always, by Andresa Silvera, my compadre here. We're going to be taking you through another session in our Tech Talk podcast, and today we're going to be focusing on forward engineering. Before we get started, how you doing, Andresa?
I'm doing great as always. How are you?
Not too bad. Andres is actually going to be a more of a special guest star today. She's going to walk us through the functionality of the data modeler with regards to forward engineering. Now, if you've seen some of our other previous podcasts, which I really hope you have, we're going to be covering the third part of the round trip that the data modeler provides. The round trip consists of reverse engineering your current DBMS structures, complete compare, where we can compare our physical models to a database or to other models. And then the last part is forward engineering and ultimately schema generation. Now, these forward engineering can take the form of several different approaches. We can do an alter script, which we saw in the complete compare, or we could create a model from scratch and then generate that and move it into our DBMS system. I'm not going to read the slides. I'm expecting everybody can do that. Just to reiterate, the purpose of these podcasts is to supplement what we have in the help manuals or online help manuals. So if you are like me and you're not particularly keen on jamming through a full document in order to get your knowledge on, we'll be using these to kind of show you how to do it and then point you to the documentation in the help files to give you more detail, because there's a lot more to the functionality that we're going to be providing than we're actually going to cover today. All right, so these are the steps we're going to be walking through. And Jays is going to be walking us through a very, very simple model creation with just a few tables. So starting with entities, and then we're going to move into the tables, and we're going to look at the DDL that's been created. So the process is specify how you're going to generate your schema, review the options, preview the DDL script, change the schema generation options if you need to, and then generate the schema. Where is this schema coming from? It's going to be coming from our physical model. So with that, I'm going to transfer control over to Andresa, and she's going to walk us through basic forward engineering.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, so let's get started here. I have a model, a empty model, as you can see here. I have no entities created at this point. However, I do have a few objects, such as a couple domains and naming standards in place, along with some diagrams. And the reason I have that already is because I'm using a template. So we will see shortly on one of our coming up podcasts that we can do use a template to inherit the standards. So all I did here was create new. I selected to create a logical physical combined model, which could be logical only, physical only, or logical physical combined, or match my template. I selected my database target and I navigated to my template. Okay, so that's the process I did to create this model, this empty model that I'm now going to create the entities on top of. Okay, so keep in mind we will see this in another session. Okay, so to get started here, I'm going to create my first entity. I did do a work here to create specific um, domains that I want to drag and drop just to make our life a little bit easier here. Okay, so I'm just going to create customer ID, customer first name, customer last name, and let me see here, phone number. Okay, so just a couple things on our logical side here that we can now use. I will create a second one here called order, and I'm going to drag and drop my order number here, and I will create and non-identifying relationship, so we can have our customer ID also as part of our order table. If you, as you see, I have ID here under customer and I have ID here under order. If I wanted to change that name on the order, I could go to my properties, I could go to row name, and now I can call it customer ID over here. Okay, even though it's only called ID on the customer table, that is what we call row name, and that is used for a better context and to prevent unification on the child table. Okay, so just doing that to make it a little bit clear what we are doing here. All right.
Cool. That's cool.
I know, isn't it? It's pretty good. So from here, when we move on to our physical side, and let me adjust my zoom on my model here. So here's our physical model, very simple. As you can see, I only have first name, last name, customer phone number, and I have number here for order and my foreign key from customer. Pretty simple model. Okay. From here, we have a couple options. We can add a view if we need to, and I can actually do that here to show you how that looks like, and the standards for creating a view. Let me go in here, is that the name usually will be a business name. So you usually gonna have a V underscore customer if I was bringing in only things from customer, right? Only the columns from customer. Since we have a combined view that might get something from order, something from customer, you want something that clarifies what process this view is going to display. So I'm just going to call it view purchase process, just to give it a name that might be a little bit easier to understand. So I go to my view properties, and from here, I have two options. I can either create tables from here. I can select specific tables on my from, which I have customer, order. Okay, I can go now to select and select which columns I want to add to my view, and I'm just going to add those three here so I can have a little bit of each. And then I can use my where clauses, group by, or have clauses here as well. I can select some options for my encryption, schema binding, or view metadata. Of course, I'm targeting SQL Server, so those options will be a little bit specific for SQL Server. I can also set up permissions for my view. So that will create this specific syntax for my view. However, if you do want to create your own syntax, you can come in here, click on User Defined SQL, and they'll open up the editor here for you to type in your view. Then those fields here will be just for documentation, but the DDL will pick up from this User Defined SQL tab instead of picking up from where permissions and so on. Okay, so you have two options when you're creating views. Either you type in your own syntax under user defined SQL, or you create your syntax using select, from, where, and permission.
Excellent.
Okay, and you can always see whatever you are creating here under your SQL tab. All right, so just some things that we created that we now have enough for us to do for engineering. So we come here to actions. We have two options as far as for engineering. We can do schema or alter script. If you are first time generating your system, you're gonna do schema, which brings in all the objects within the model. So if we fast forward here to preview, we will have all our tables, views, and specific constraints created for us on the preview and on the DDL. Going through this process here, you have your option selection. So here is the specific options you have in case you want to create your database. As an example, your database is not created. You want to create a database for this specific model, you can click on create, and that will add a create statement to your DDL. You can go to your schema and also clear your schema. You can go to your table options as well, and you can add specific options for your table. If you do partitions, I recommend you do turn on partitions and physical storage if you are storing those partitions within your data model. When you look at columns, one thing I want to mention here, and I'll probably show you that a little bit later as well, but pay attention to your physical order, because the physical order in the model will take in consideration whatever you did first, so whatever you first created the model, either from reverse engineering or either creating from scratch. Okay, so I'll go back to my preview here. All right, so that's how you're going to create the DDL for the whole model. From here, you have the options to either edit. Okay, you can save this as a DDL in case you want to send this over to your DBAs or to the person that will review and apply those statements to your database. And last option is the generate, which you got to be very careful with, because once you click generate, you are going to apply this statements or this DDL to your database if you do have the permission. So if you are one of the people that are able to alter the database and you hit generate, you are going to apply this according to the permissions you have added before. So if I have not connected to my database yet, you will request me to connect to my database. And how you can see that is under database connection here. Okay, I'm not connected right now, so if I click generate, I'll get this screen asking me to connect to my database. Again, if I have permissions to edit or alter my database, I will do so when I hit generate. If I have already added this at some point in my session, I'm already connected. So if I'm already connected and hit generate, I will be applying those statements directly to my database. So be very careful. Make sure if you do not want to do anything dangerous, you disconnect to your database before you start playing with this. Okay?
Good point. Is a very, very good point. Hey,
Yeah,
would you mind? It does happen. I've actually done it on demonstrations and I forgot and I had to go back and clean it up. So it's easier being in pre-sales than doing production. So
exactly.
Now, if you wouldn't mind, if you could bring up that schema generator again and just kind of, I know we're not going to go into too much detail here, but if we could just take a look at the forward engineering template, I want to make some comments about this. The forward engineering template is part of the round trip that we provide. So this is the last step here. This is written in a language called TLX, and if you really want to, you can learn TLX and use it in context to modify these forward engineering templates. So there's a lot that you can do under the covers, but I will say that most people are well served by using the default forward engineering template, and then if there's anything else, they can run procedures before or after these execute.
Yep, that is true. That's a great point. We generate our SQL statements, our DDL, from our forward engineering template, which is specific to each database that you are using. So if you want to add it, feel free. Just make sure you do a save as, so you always have your the out of the box one in case you need to revert your changes.
Good idea. That's a tried and true method there.
Correct. All right.
Excellent.
Second point here is our alter. And to do the alter, I'm just going to actually let me go to the logical side first. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a street address here right after my last name. Okay. For my customer. And now that I've made a modification to my model, I've got a couple options to do this. If you remember, we had already set a forward engineering, and we had set the forward engineering with the whole model. With the alter script, you only have alters on your DDL that will proceed with the changes you have selected. So If I click on Alter Script, you're going to see the same type of wizard that will show you your options, but now you're going to see your option set is for Alter Schema instead of the Forward Engineering Schema. So you have the same options here. Okay, so you have the option to either create or alter. All right, if you go to the preview here, you have your preview. And if you remember what I said before, to take a look at, and let me go here. If you remember what I said before, to take a look at your physical order, you understand why you have the preview here that is actually creating tables and then doing all of that. The reason is we are following the physical order, which we'll have to drop this table and recreate because I added the customer phone number right in the middle of it. Okay.
Ah, okay.
Now I will turn that off, and I think I have changed it. I have to probably change something here. Okay, so when you modify the physical order that you have on your columns, you will Irwin will demand you, or not Irwin, but the normal form and your database will demand you to probably drop and recreate your tables, because if you remember, you can't just insert something in the middle. And if I'm following the order that I currently have, that I had before, I can either insert something at the end of my table. I cannot insert anything on the top of my table.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so you gotta follow that order when you do your alter script. So make sure you take a look at the column physical order option. So this way, when you get your DDL for the alter script, it won't have all the statement, but that's why, because I'm not only doing a simple alter, I'm actually being forced to drop the table and recreate. If I do a simple, and let me go just back here, right? If I do a simple change on order here, I put last name first and then first name after that. And now I go back to my physical. You see that on the physical, that did not change because our columns are still following the physical order.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm still following the physical order, and I'm able to change that. If I click on reset order, I can reset the order to match my attribute order. So now I have last name first, first name second. And when I do that and I do my alter script, okay, you're gonna see that we have, let me go here to option selection column. I'm not following the physical order. If I follow the physical order, I'll have very similar changes in here that will drop and recreate the table. Okay, so that's something that you need to keep a look at when you are doing a alter script or a forward engineering.
That's cool.
All right. So any additional comments, Andrew, before we end this?
No, I think this is great. I actually learned a few things, which is not surprising. And I wanted to thank you for walking us through this. And if you're listening at home, which I hope you are, Andresa did give you a little teaser for what we'll be showing in the model template session that we'll be providing. So stay tuned and take a look at that when you get a chance. So thank you, Andresa, and thank you, everybody. We'll be talking to you soon. Stay tuned.